Welcome, listeners, to a tale that delves into the dark corners of the mind and the eerie realms of the supernatural. Our story begins in the early 2000s, during the height of LimeWire's popularity, a time when downloading music and programs from the internet was both thrilling and risky. Imagine stumbling upon a strange program late at night and deciding, against your better judgment, to install it. What follows is a descent into a chilling series of events that blur the lines between reality and madness. Sit back, relax, and prepare to question everything you know about the digital world and the fragility of the human mind. Back in the early 2000s, LimeWire was all the rage. For those who don't know, LimeWire was a peer-to-peer file-sharing program that allowed you to download pretty much anything, from music to software. It was a haven for people like me who loved digging through the digital crates for hidden gems. Sure, it was filled with viruses and pirated content, but that was part of the thrill. You never knew what you might stumble upon. I've always been a tech enthusiast. Computers, gadgets, software, you name it. I've probably tinkered with it. Ever since I was a kid, I loved the feeling of cracking open a new piece of software and exploring its capabilities. My friends used to call me the digital archaeologist because I could find and resurrect almost any piece of lost or forgotten tech. One late night, while sifting through endless lists of files on LimeWire, I found a peculiar program titled The Gatekeeper. The file description was cryptic, promising access to hidden knowledge and supernatural communication. Ignoring the risks of downloading a potential virus, I decided to give it a try. What harm could a little digital ghost hunting do? The download was straightforward, but the installation process seemed uneventful. The screen flickered briefly, and then nothing happened. There was no sign of a new program, no shortcut on the desktop, nothing in the start menu. I shrugged it off, thinking it might have been a dud. Just to be safe, I did run a virus scan. You never really knew what you'd be getting from LimeWire. Forrest Gump said it best. It's like a box of chocolates. Anyway, the scan came back clean, so I didn't think anything else of it. Over the next few days, however, strange things began to happen. I noticed files on my desktop moving around on their own, random programs opening and closing, and cryptic messages flashing on the screen too quickly to read. It was subtle at first, but the disturbances grew more frequent and harder to ignore. Help me. It was a simple message, but it made me feel uneasy. At first, I tried to dismiss it as some kind of glitch or virus, but as the days went on, the occurrences became more intense and disturbing. All virus scans came back clean, and there were no other signs that it was an actual virus. My nights were plagued by nightmarish visions, dark figures standing at the foot of my bed, whispers echoing through the hallways, and ghostly apparitions appearing in the corners of my vision. The program seemed to have taken over not just my computer, but my entire apartment. My TV would turn on by itself, blaring static in the middle of the night. My phone would ring, displaying unknown numbers, only to emit a low, guttural sound when I answered. Desperation set in as I realized I was no longer in control. I tried everything to uninstall the program, but it seemed to have deeply integrated itself into my system. No matter what I did, it kept coming back, stronger each time. In my frantic search for answers, I delved deeper into the origins of the program. I discovered that it was created by a developer who had mysteriously vanished. According to forum threads and old articles, he had been experimenting with bridging the gap between the digital world and the spirit world, using his program as the medium. The more I read, the more I realized that I was dealing with something far beyond my understanding. One particularly disturbing thread suggested that the program was a conduit for a vengeful spirit trapped in the digital realm. This spirit was seeking release, and it had found a way to communicate with the living through the program. My fear grew as I pieced together the chilling possibility that this spirit was now targeting me. I sought help from various online communities and local experts, and even attempted some rudimentary rituals I found in old manuscripts. Nothing worked. The hauntings continued unabated, driving me to the brink of insanity. I barely slept, plagued by the constant presence of the spirit and the unending whispers. One night, in a moment of sheer desperation, I managed to establish direct communication with the spirit through the program. It used the computer to display cryptic messages and images, guiding me through a sequence of actions it claimed would release it. "Free me," it demanded, providing detailed instructions. The steps were disturbing and complex, involving strange codes, ritualistic symbols, and even tasks that affected the physical world. I had to rearrange objects in my home, draw symbols with salt, and chant incantations while performing specific keystrokes on my computer. The final steps of the ritual were the most unsettling. I had to enter a series of codes into the program while the spirit provided real-time instructions. The screen filled with swirling symbols and eerie graphics, creating an almost hypnotic effect. My surroundings seemed to blur and distort, as if the boundaries between the digital and physical worlds were merging. After what felt like hours, I completed the final step. The screen went black, and an eerie silence filled the room. The hauntings stopped, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. I believed I had freed the spirit. The next day, however, I started noticing subtle but unsettling changes. Objects in my apartment were moved despite me being certain I hadn't touched them. The air felt colder, and there was an eerie silence that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. It was as if I was being watched. It didn't take long for the situation to deteriorate. The spirit, now fully manifested, began making its presence known in more direct ways. I would see it out of the corner of my eye, a dark, shadowy figure lurking just beyond my vision. I could feel its malevolent intent, and the fear it inspired was unlike anything I had ever experienced. One night, as I was sitting at my computer, the screen suddenly flickered to life, displaying a single word in bold crimson letters: "Thank you." A cold dread settled in my stomach as I realized what I had done. I hadn't freed the spirit, I had brought it into the physical world. Throughout the escalating horror, I experienced moments of disorientation. I'd find myself in unfamiliar surroundings with people in white coats speaking soothingly, calling me by an unknown name. These moments felt fleeting, and I brushed them off as dreams or hallucinations. One particularly harrowing night, during a confrontation with the spirit, my vision blurred. Suddenly, I was in a stark, sterile room across from a man in a white coat. "I'm Dr. Collins," he said gently but firmly. "How are you feeling today?" Confused and disoriented, I stammered, "Where am I?" "You're in the psychiatric ward," Dr. Collins replied. "You've been here for several months. Do you remember why?" I shook my head, trying to piece together fragmented memories. The hauntings, the spirit, the program. It had all felt so real, but now seemed like a distant nightmare. That's when I noticed the dark figure lingering in the corner, the spirit. I realized this psychiatric ward was just another nightmare. I started screaming and tried to flee the room, but the doctors restrained me. Over the next few weeks, I kept having the same haunting dream. Each time I'd attempt to force myself awake, but when that failed, I'd try to escape, only to be held down and injected with something. Afterwards, like clockwork, I'd wake up back in the real world, still tormented by the haunted program. The vividness of the nightmares shook me to my core. Had the spirit somehow trapped my mind in this endless cycle of horrors? Or was my grip on reality simply slipping away? The lines between the digital and physical blurred more each day as the ghost toyed with my sanity. "I desperately need your help. I'm at the end of my rope battling this supernatural evil. If any of you know about the occult or dealing with evil spirits, please share your knowledge. How can I get rid of this haunted program from my life forever? And if you know techniques for controlling nightmares or lucid dreaming, I need that too. I'm stuck in this psychiatric ward nightmare, thinking I've woken up, only for the spirit to pull me back under into fresh torment. Writing this all out and opening up to the world might be wishful thinking. But I've tried everything else. Psychologists, religious leaders, paranormal experts. None could provide answers or save me from this anguish poisoning my existence, so I'm begging for the collective wisdom of the internet. Help me save my soul and sanity from this wicked digital ghost before it consumes me entirely. I can't take much more of this living nightmare. Time is running out before I lose myself forever to this evil. And so, dear listeners, we reach the end of our unsettling journey. Our protagonist remains trapped in a cycle of haunting visions and clinical explanations, forever questioning what is real and what is imagined. Personally, I think the poor guy is actually in a mental hospital, and the haunted program is just an illusion created by his troubled mind. But what do you think? Was it all in his head, or is there something more sinister at play? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more spine-chilling tales. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.